Chapter 13 Sabor fresa, Part 2. Hello, Mr. Black. My name is Ch.13, and I'm the healer in charge of your case. The woman in front of him has a sharp face, but kind green eyes. Her strawberry blonde hair is in a neat bun on the nape of her neck. A pair of glasses perches on her straight nose. She's the picture of competence, and that, for some reason, makes Regulus want to scream. Respect bubbles in his gut, and his defenses sharpen. Hi, Regulus blinks, trying to seem alert. Everything is sluggish. He suspects the tube in his arm has so calming draw in it, which he doesn't love but has to admit is helping. His whole life is disintegrating before his eyes, so anything that keeps the existential despair at bay is welcome for the moment. The healer's eyes flick to the jar he's cuddling. Immediately, he lets go. Salazar's socks, talk about pathetic. Clearing his throat, he puts the jar on the bedside table and pretends he's not painfully aware of the petals filling it to the brim. We need to discuss something, she says, conjuring a clipboard and quill out of thin air. I need to ask you some questions. Okay. This is not how he thought it would go. Sure, somewhere deep down he knew he was always going to end up in St. Mungo's, especially after he talked to Effie. There was no question about it. His condition warrants professional help, but he never imagined he would land himself here after. Just thinking about it makes Regulus want to cry. He swallows, nods to indicate to healer Viraten that she can start. He's not ready, but he doesn't think he ever will be, so he might as well bite the bludger. Mrs. Potter has informed us that you have several of these jars, she says. At least, Regulus thinks bitterly, she's professional enough to keep any mocking out of her tone. She sounds so neutral, she might as well be under the imperious curse. We've asked her to bring them for testing. She told us we couldn't do anything that would damage them. It sounded as though that might hurt you. Can you please explain this symptom to me? Regulus wants to tell her. He needs help, clearly, and yet the reluctance is there. The words crowd behind his teeth, clinging to his tongue and unwilling to let go. Can you tell me why they assigned you to me first, Miss Virtanen? What's wrong with me? Call me Sari, she says, waving a dismissive hand in the air. Like she's not here for pleasantries, but for business. Regulus kind of likes that. I'm an expert in invasive diseases. When you fell off your broom, you broke a few ribs on impact. Our attempts to fix them failed, so we performed a diagnostic spell that reproduces the inside of your body for us. It showed, she clears her throat. It showed plants growing inside your lungs, Mr. Black. That's why you're unwell. They've advanced enough that some of the vines have reached your ribs, thus interfering with the bone-setting potions. With every word she says, Regulus's panic mounts. What? Plants inside me? What are you? How? That's not. But why? That's what I'm here for, Sari replies calmly. It could be that you ate a seed from an invasive plant, or it could be a hex placed on you, perhaps a curse. Whatever it is, it's invading your body, and that's my specialty. That's why I'm headlining your case. Invading your body. It makes sense in a horrible, twisted sort of way. His mind reframes his symptoms, the way they come in waves, sometimes worse, sometimes eating back. coughing fits at seemingly random times, and how he tried to find a pattern to them, desperately searching for clues where there were none. It's not about stress. It's not about James. Something is growing inside of him, and his body is rejecting it. And then his brain provides him images of roots and branches punching through his chest, vines growing out of his mouth, his eyes, pale skin split open, tendrils like fingers slithering out to curl around his body, the sickening sound of bones cracking. It's a thing of nightmares, an eldritch horror. A living organism is spreading, taking the space that belongs to his internal organs. Regulus is smart enough to understand that if he left unchecked, it will win. It will kill him. Despite his broken dreams and hopelessness, Regulus doesn't want to die. He finds, in fact, that he very, very badly wants to live. Can you cure it? He asks. We don't know yet, Sari replies. But I'm going to do everything in my power to find a solution. Regulus swallows. It's strange. Now that he knows about it, he swears he can feel them. Petals, leaves, thin stems slowly taking up space that's meant for his lungs, for air. That's why I'm so tired, he mutters. Why everything takes so much effort. Yes, which brings me back to the symptoms. I need to know everything, Mr. Black. I want to save you, and I need your help with that. Sari regards him earnestly and with a warmth that he doesn't think is fabricated. Her concern seems genuine, and when she adds, Please, Mr. Black, he finds his defenses lowering just a smidge. I suppose, Regulus starts, forcing the words out one by one. The first thing you need to know is that I don't like talking about it. Sari Virtanen becomes the most important person in his life overnight. For endless days, Regulus lets the healer poke and prod at him, lets her ask him invasive questions and, most shockingly, he actually answers. He tells her everything, or as close to it as he can get before he chokes on a coughing fit and has to be sedated so he can rest before trying again. Strangely, Sari is also the only person Regulus is comfortable letting near him. Talking to her is scary, but it doesn't hurt. All she cares about is the disease slowly stealing his life. She doesn't ask about Quidditch or about his broom. It survived the crash, but it's in 2 pieces. Sirius tells him eventually. Nor does she ask about the harsh truth that he has no career or prospects. Sari doesn't care about flying, doesn't look at him with pity or with badly concealed grief. She doesn't ask him about his choices, or about his plan B, or about whether he'll try again with another team. To Sari, all that matters are the plants and flowers growing in his lungs. He's enormously grateful to her for that. We can't treat you until we know what it is, she tells Regulus when she helps him back into the hospital bed. She made him walk up and down the corridor with a series of small assistant fairies fluttering around to monitor his vitals. Right now, our priority is figuring it out. We need a diagnosis before we move on to treatment. But I'm looking into remedies to give you a bit more energy and make this more comfortable. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Regulus, she says, and he respects her for treating him like an adult, for being realistic with him. He's determined and relieved. A problem needs solving, and his cooperation is crucial. It helps keep his mind off things. He'd rather face the pain of needles and potions and spells than the reality that waits him outside of this hospital. If he ever makes it out, that is, sometimes he doesn't think he will. Every day, Monty and Effie come to see him in the evening for a bit before they have to leave when visiting hours are over. They are worried, but they put on a brave face for Regulus. He pretends he's okay, lets them chat about what's going on outside. He hears about James's recovery and feels both relieved and terrified that James is better. Soon he'll be well enough to leave the hospital. Barty, Evan, and Pandora visit him twice. The first time, they are so emotional and overwhelmed that Regulus is okay. There's little talking before they are ushered outside so he can sleep. Barty cries harder than the others. His sobbing hiccups can be heard all the way down the hallway. The second time his friends come, their visit coincides with one of Sari's more grueling tests. Regulus barely has the strength to talk to them. That's when they start to look at him with worry, and it only makes him feel guiltier. After that, he asks them not to come until Sari has diagnosis. They fight him on it at first, at least until he starts coughing so violently blood splatters the sheets alongside new petals. After witnessing this horror, Barty and Evan agree to everything and anything Regulus asks. If us not bothering you makes you better, we'll stay the fuck away from here, Barty says vehemently. The shock has stolen all the warmth from his cheeks. Anything you need, Reg. Just focus on getting better, Evan begs, eyes a little red. Please. Pandora promises him she will help research. We'll figure this out, she says to him, a determined glint where her old eyes twinkle usually lives. You're going to be okay. Sirius shows up several times a day, but he's mostly turned away by Sari or the nurses at Regulus's request. He can't face his brother any more than he can face the truth. He didn't make the magpies. The other two seekers did. One as the headlining player, the other as the reserve. Looking at Sirius's devastated expression makes Regulus want to die, so he tries not to. He knows it's hurting his brother, but he needs some time to mourn too. It's his dream that died after all. That's why when the nurse shows up to clean his dinner tray and says there's someone waiting by the door to his room, Regulus's first instinct is to say no. But then his eyes flicker to the window. It's dark outside. Visiting hours finished a while ago, so who? Reg? James stands in the doorway, barefoot and with his hospital gown falling to mid-thigh. It's a jarring enough image that Regulus forgets himself. James. The nurse slips out with the tray, and James steps inside. He's hesitant, wringing his hands. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. I tried, but they wouldn't. They said if I stood up before the potions did their thing, I might not walk again, so... Might not walk again? Wait, what? Regulus asks. It comes out shrill and high-pitched. How? He forces himself to breathe, hard as it is these days, then says more calmly. I knew you were hurt, but I didn't... No one told me it was that serious. I thought you were just busy. It's James's turn to look appalled. You thought I was busy? Well, in 2 strides, James is at his side. Regulus takes him in, eyes lingering a little longer than they should. If James notices him staring, he will blame the medicine, he decides. James has lost a little weight, but not enough that he doesn't still rock that hospital gown like he's being paid for it. Frankly, it's unfair that James manages to look good in this outrageous garment. I'm so offended, Reg, James tells him. Nothing in the world is more important than making sure you are okay. I wasn't here sooner because I couldn't be. They tied me to the bed. Regulus's eyebrows fly to his hairline. They tied you to the bed. Yes, James sounded proud of it. I fought them so much they had no choice. A petrifying hex would have interfered with the healing. Look, I have a leather rash from one of the straps. He lifts his arm to show off the mark to Regulus. It's bright red on his brown skin. Recent, which makes Regulus wonder if James should even be standing here. Did you break out? Should you even, James? Is this a clandestine meeting? Obviously, James says. He grins and wiggles his eyebrows. And it's so ridiculous, so absurd, but also so wonderfully caring of him that Regulus runs his fingers over the red mark in awe before he bursts out laughing. James grins, tilts his head. There you are. The intensity of his gaze, the way it pierces right through sinew and bones, makes Regulus's laughter fade, his smile slip. He's been doing so well not thinking about James. His days are filled with tests and the anguish of Sirius dropping by and the monotony of life in the hospital. Without realizing it, Regulus had let James drift somewhere else. But James is here now, sitting on the edge of the bed, and Regulus's fingers are still pressed against the red mark on James's wrist. He rips his hand away and averts his eyes. I've been here for days, he mumbles, as if James's words were more of an I found you than I see you. Truthfully, he's not sure which is worse. Ma told me a little. James's gaze drifts to a jars kept near Regulus's bed, within reach, but far enough that he doesn't always have to look at them. Why didn't you say something? You know we would have done everything I'm not going over this with you two. Regulus's voice is harsher than he means for it to be in the quiet dim of his room. I could have, but I didn't. I should have, but I didn't. Regardless, I wouldn't have mentioned it. I didn't mention it. I can't turn it all back, James, so just let it go, please. James pushes his tongue against the inside of his cheek and inhales deep into his lungs. For a moment, Regulus envies him for that small luxury alone. Okay, then how are you feeling? Right now, I'm fine. They didn't do any tests today, so it's just the usual. Difficulty breathing, tired. And do you really have vines growing on your ribs? Apparently, Regulus fidgets his hand in his lap. The sheets are soft, but everything feels itchy against his skin. James is still staring at him with an intensity that makes him feel on display. I can't feel them, not really. Sometimes I think I can, but other times I just feel normal. But you are still coughing up the... James gestures vaguely to the jar of petals. There will be 8 soon. All of the time. James raps at his jaw. There's a bit of scruff along the line of it, like he hasn't had a proper shave in days. Regulus looks away before James can catch him staring. He's sure he looks like hell, even with the tube in his arm providing him with nutrients. He's thinner, the muscle he worked hard to build over the years losing their shape. Even if they magically cured him tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to play Quidditch at the level he was. It would take months to... The thought of Quidditch, of lost dreams and the whole future in shambles, sends him curling in on himself. He pulls his knees to his chest and rests his forehead on top of them, fighting tears. What a fucking nightmare his life has been from the start. Will he ever have a moment to breathe? Reg, hey, are you all right? James's voice sounds far away. Regulus, Do you feel sick? Do you want me to call for a healer? Regulus shakes his head. Did I say something? Another shake. Do you want me to leave you alone? No. One word, but it still manages to come out broken and slightly panicked. He collects himself before continuing. No, I'm all right. Overwhelmed, I think, but I'll be all right. The bed shifts, and James smacks his leg gently. Move over, then. Regulus lifts his head and squints. I'm sorry? Move over. Without really understanding, Regulus shuffles a little to the left. There's not enough room, but James settles against his right side, both of them sharing the small hospital bed. James is too long, too broad, but Regulus doesn't mind being squished up against the railing. Not if it's by James. Nonchalantly, James pushes the other railing down, so there's more room for him to settle against the pillows that keep Regulus propped up. Your bed is comfier than mine, he mutters, adjusting again to pull the sheets over his lap. Regulus is trying very, very hard not to let his brain short-circuit at the overwhelming warmth of James's bare skin pressed against his own. Sorry? That's the second time you've said that. I'm going to start charging you 1 galleon for each sorry you say. I'm 3 galleons, Reg. Watch it. Regulus huffs a soft laugh. Fine. My apologies. That's still a version of I'm sorry, so I'm going to make that 4. James leans his head back, closes his eyes, and grins. By the time you get out of here, I'm going to be the richest man in England. You already are the richest man in England. James purses his lips, his entire face contorting in deep thought. You know what? You might be right. With a slight spur of irritation, Regulus shoves at his shoulder. You can't stay here if you're going to be insufferable. I've never been insufferable a day in my life. Regulus barks a laugh when James pushes him back. Hey, you can't push the sick person. My back is broken. You probably shouldn't shove me. It's what you deserve, performing insane heroics like that. Regulus shoves him gently one more time, but the air is heavier, their laughter and smiles fading quickly. Why did you, anyway? Sirius said it shattered your broom. It wasn't that bad. He narrows his eyes and pins James down with a glare. Regulus can tell he's lying. James? Exactly how bad was it? If you lie to me again, I'll kick you out. It was a bit touch and go there for a minute. James sighs heavily. He runs a hand through his hair, pushes at his glasses. They are telltale signs he's anxious. Regulus waits with growing dread until, in a sheepish voice, James adds, For a short time we weren't sure if I would be able to play again. What the fuck is wrong with you? Regulus takes a breath, not a deep one, he can't do those, and stares at James in horror. What were you thinking, James? Oh, Salazar, I can't even... James turns his entire torso to look Regulus in the eye. There's no escaping him this time. He's too close, and there's nowhere else for Regulus to look without it being obvious. Reg, you do understand you are important to me, right? And you understand I would never let you die. I saw the split second before you fell off the broom. I don't think I've ever flown that fast in my life. Warm breath goes over Regulus's face, and he is startlingly aware of just how close James is. I don't care if performing insane heroics to keep you alive means I never play Quidditch again, as long as you are breathing. Regulus blinks, startled. He wants to shrink back into his pillows, but there's nowhere for him to go. He's stuck exactly where he is. with James practically leaning over him, their sides pressed together under the sheet, and their faces too close. Much closer than Regulus ever remembers them being. You don't mean that. You wouldn't give up Quidditch. For you? Absolutely. Time is a strange thing. It flows too fast when you wish it would slow down, and it inches along when all you want for it to speed up. Regulus isn't sure what he wishes time would do now. They feel frozen in this brief moment, like one of Monty's Muggle films paused and waiting for someone to press play again. James is too close, but he's not close enough. His breath smells of the strawberry dessert they brought with Regulus's dinner earlier. Do they give the same meal to every patient? Regardless, he likes it better. Thinks it's sweeter this way, brushing over his mouth on James's breath. Would it taste better on James's lips? James's eyes flick down, then up. What lies behind them is entirely unreadable. Reg, he says. Oh, Mr. Potter, I didn't expect. Aren't you on another floor? Someone presses play. Time speeds up, and the moment shatters. James looks briefly furious before he drops back against the pillow to give the healer a winning smile. I might be, yes. She quirks a brow. Then you are not meant to be here. He's my friend. Can I visit a friend? Not this late in the evening. You can come back tomorrow, during visiting hours. She gestures for him to get off the bed, ignorant of Regulus's silent pleas to let him stay. 8 in the morning. You can come back then, all right? James grumbles under his breath, but gets to his feet. I'll be back tomorrow, Reg. If they let me, all right? Okay. Regulus doesn't move from where James pressed him into the bed, the railing. I'll see you then. The healer fuses over him after James leaves. She checks his tube, collects his half-eaten dinner, then reminds him he can call any time. A whole night shift of healers watches over the 4th floor 24/7. It isn't until she leaves and he's alone again, the room too quiet, that he shifts back to the middle of the bed. He goes to adjust the sheet to get himself comfortable enough to sleep. And that's when he notices it. A sly imprint in the bedding, between his body and the bed's railing, like fingers gripped the sheet. He can't remember if it was his hand or James's.